live.
Are we?
It says we are. All right, there's the picture. All right. Welcome back. I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
Sorry, I got you at a bad moment.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
You just hit me with a purple sword, Rick.
Yeah, that's true. So our listeners should know that I'm taking great big hits of Great Blue Dini. and
Blueberry Crush. Blueberry.
Or in certain neighborhoods, just green.
Green. Yeah. What are we doing, Jeff?
We're doing a podcast. It's called Coffee Before Dark. No, or Before Bed.
Before dark, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Well, it's way dark.
Yeah, it's
so
closer to midnight than it is.
It is closer to midnight.
What is Coffee Before Bed? I feel like I answer this question every week.
Coffee before bed. I don't know. It almost feels like an odyssey now.
It's
a journey we've been over 1,000 times, but
well, it's sort of like a log at this point. It's like
captain's log. Oh, do we have a start date?
26 Jan 22.
Oh, okay. So you're just going to use the actual date.
I don't know what the actual start date would be. How do you calculate that?
I don't know. I thought they just made it up.
That's what I thought. I thought they just picked a whole bunch of digits.
Yeah, and start date 142 Delta said. I don't know. Somebody can answer that.
Yeah.
Any Trek fans out there?
Well, I should be able to answer this, but I never looked it up. I just presumed that it was just they made it up on the spot.
I bet you there's a system.
I guarantee you there is.
Yeah.
Because somebody at some point would have said, wait, then this is taking place in the past.
Right.
Or this is taking place in the way distant future.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you that's something that Gene Roddenberry actually laid the law down on.
Probably. Or the writers, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think that would be fan-generated content.
It easily could be. I mean, the fans sometimes on those type of shows are sometimes the best curators of making sure that the stuff actually stays canon, especially when it's sort of like based off like a loosely I don't know, consolidated, or like a show that never really had a strong canon to begin with. So I remember I got into a stupid argument once about The Simpsons, which has been, I don't know, 30 years. I don't know at this point.
I think they're at like 34, something like that.
But there was this episode where at the very end of the episode, the punchline was that the rapture had come, the Simpsons were descending into hell.
Yeah.
So you remember this,
yeah,
right?
with the Flanderses praying and getting lifted into heaven next door.
Right.
While there's flames shooting up through the streets of Springfield. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, so that was something that...
They're like, oh no you don't, boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, it was Lisa, right?
It was Lisa,
which was weird
yeah.
because she didn't believe in...
One of us.
Yeah, so the thing was, in that episode, because it takes place before other seasons, Maud Flanders was still alive.
Oh, right.
So my argument was that this has to be canonically the last episode in the series because of the events, and that means that at some point Maud Flanders must be brought back from the dead.
Interesting theory. It's kind of like the flag has fringe on it, so you can't charge me with that crime.
Sort of. Yeah, you're kind of right. But yeah, that was the whole point. Was the argument was it's not that kind of show, because at that point it was Bart Simpson's been in 4th grade for 20 plus years at this point.
Well, sure, he's like the new Charlie Brown.
Right.
Yeah. So, or what was the other one that I was thinking about the other day? Where it's gone completely off the rails. Where it's just South Park is the one where it's just silly now.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's been around for so long. And so they actually had the pandemic special, which I haven't seen, where they're all supposed to be like in their 40s. So
yeah, I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, me neither. Maybe I'll go check that out and do an update on Friday. We'll see. The previous pandemic one was really disappointing. So
that one I saw. It was fine. It just, it's... Dropped a little late.
Yeah, it dropped a little late. I guess the funny part was like Mr. Garrison at the end, flamethrowering the dude. Big election coming up. And then, he lost the election. So.
Yeah, but you're asking me to sit through a lot for that. I mean, and again, like,
that was like an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. It was fine. It just, you guys weren't really letting the humor drive the show. You were trying to be topical. And take that, you South Park guys. Let me tell you how to do your jobs.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. So I'll go back to my mansion in Beverly Hills.
Right. Right. It's like, oh, that's right. I forgot that you and I own Casa Bonita. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one's kind of in the same boat, man. So, especially you watch some of the old ones, they're kind of excruciating. So...
Oh yeah. I won't watch anything from like those first like 4 seasons.
Yeah,
they're insufferable.
Oh yeah, before they drop Mr. Hanky. So
it's not even that. It's just even they themselves realized that their storytelling method was awful. Right?
That's true.
They even put a term to it. They said that it was, they said it was called and then storytelling.
And then?
Yeah. So. They said their early episodes, they said they had a hard time watching them too, because the format of the episodes was event happens and then, right? And they said, we didn't learn what we were doing until we changed that to event happens because or meanwhile.
Because or meanwhile.
Yes. So event happens because or meanwhile this is happening.
Oh, that's pretty clever. I guess
right?
I never really put 2 and 2 together on that one.
And there's a noticeable difference in terms of the actual cohesion of the storylines because they're connected. Where if it's happening meanwhile, then they will converge at some point.
Right.
Right? Or it is happening as a result of other parts in the story.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's actual growth.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. I think they gave a TED Talk about it, which was surprising. Yeah.
Oh, no shit. I might have to go check that out.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I soured on TED Talks like a couple of years ago once I realized how many of them are fucking fake.
I was going to say, who did you see on there that...
There's one that I've been teaching in class for a long time until like all this like replication studies tried to come out trying to, duplicate what this one chick had done. And she was a business professor with, she might have been in Harvard, come to think of it. But she did this whole thing with the power posing. Have you heard of that? Where you stand like with your Wonder Woman pose. So with your hands like folded on or like knuckled on your hips.
I feel like I have, but what was her take on that?
So the whole take on that is actually like, all right, so if you do that, so like you're facing a stressful situation.
Yeah.
All right, what are the two? There's like 2 hormones that like cortisol and the other one is... One of them's good, one of them's bad. All right, one of them's like your flight versus your flight response kind of thing.
Right.
All right.
Right.
And so what you want to do is you want to raise one and you want to lower the other. I don't remember the fuck which one's which. All right. So, but apparently, if you go into a bathroom and like power pose and like tell yourself, I'm worth it, I'm important here, and I need to be here, and I'm ready for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You raise one and lower the other, and she had done like, actual spit tests on this stuff and actually produced results. Okay. This is like 10 years ago, and so the shit just spreads across like the pop psych universe like fucking wildfire. Okay. And eventually people start looking at it. I was like, okay, let's see if we can replicate that. And they couldn't replicate the original one. And nobody's ever been able to do it. All right. And so that was a TED Talk that I had showed in class, all right, for years. All right. Because I thought it was actually a pretty cool fucking message.
Yeah.
All right, it was just like, hey, believe in yourself a little bit, get out there, and you're going to crush the interview or whatever. All right, I wasn't even looking at it from like a gender perspective or anything like that. It's just like, okay, so you tested across multiple socioeconomic groups and different ethnicities and different genders and blah blah blah, and it all came out the same. So this is good neutral stuff that I can put in my class to kind of get people going. And it's crap. So
that's reconfirmed affirmation studies.
There's tons of it out there. The more famous one is the fucking marshmallow test. Have you heard of that one?
I know I have.
Yeah, the one where you put a marshmallow in front of a kid and you say,
Yeah.
if you wait 5 minutes, I'll give
Yeah.
you 2. It's bullshit. So
Yeah, the delayed gratification.
the whole delayed gratification.
Yeah, they also
so,
call that the M&M test. Yeah.
the M&M test. So what they were doing was they were taking data from, like, you know, when they first did the study back in, like, I think it was the 70s or the early 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
And then track these kids over the course of their lives. And sure, a bunch of the kids who didn't take the marshmallow were fucking doctors and stuff down the road, but no more than would be even if they hadn't taken the test. So, yeah, exactly. And so for years, I remember even in education school, they would tell you, oh, this is a marshmallow test, delayed gratification, and actually
Yeah.
waiting for your good just desserts down the road is actually really important, and blah, blah, blah. And maybe it is, but it's not provable. So, you know, and it's certainly not something that you should design a curriculum around. So,
No, I mean, you can talk about it. You can
Sure.
say these things. You can talk about these in general terms. But I mean, this is the problem: is for every instance of delayed gratification being preached as a virtue, right?
sure.
I promise you, I can go to half a dozen business sites right now that will say, this is bad because it stops you from actually going into your office and demanding a raise. Right? This is,
Well, what do you mean by that?
well, it's where it's taught delayed gratification is the antithesis of assertiveness.
Oh,
where-
yeah.
And they say that you're not getting a raise because you're not asking for it.
Right.
Right? So this is one of those weird things where, again, you and I have talked about this. We've talked about this in education, business, and all this other shit. So, you know, Ms. Power Pose here, yes, she's just repackaging affirmation studies, which the funny thing is, those have been studied in the past,
Oh, yeah, plenty of times.
right? And it's inconclusive. There are people that say these are incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
But it's,
Well, isn't that the whole thing behind positive psychology? So, I don't know that much about it, but so I've got a friend in my PhD program who's really big on positive psychology. You know, and apparently there is like some evidence for it, but it doesn't do what people say it does. Do you know what I'm
not
talking
to
about?
my knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard. I'm gonna complete. I don't have enough beyond just like
Okay.
surface level knowledge of
Yeah.
this. What I can talk about are the problem with like affirmations and power poses and all this other stuff, right? Is the same reason why anybody that goes to Barnes and Noble and buys a book about dream symbols just threw their money into a trash
Sure,
can.
yeah. Or a Tony Robbins book.
Well, no, not a Tony Robbins book actually may have some value, but dream interpretation by symbols is pointless because the book will sit there and say,
Yeah.
okay, you saw the sun. This means this. You don't know that. You can't because the symbol is internal to and intrinsic to the person seeing it, right?
Right.
So whereas the sun is hope and, you know, a new day for somebody, another person, that's them being scorched to death or dehydration or something.
Or it's just a source of light.
Or it's just the sun, or it's
Right, yeah.
it was just there, and that's to say that has that. But I mean, the problem with saying like affirmations and stuff is what the individual draws from it, what they believe in it, what they, you know, if it is already, you know, working on a system that they already have, yes, you can see that. But with something like this, you tell somebody, say this in the mirror 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's intrinsic to you. What does that
Sure,
mean?
yeah.
Are you trying to convince yourself? Do you already believe in yourself? Do you think this is bullshit and you're doing it anyway?
Yeah.
Is this just, you know, like a chicken hitting at the pellets here, thinking that it's almost got like a quasi-religious, you know, sentimentality to it? It's the same thing as somebody flicking the light switch on 5 times before they enter a room, right? You're just saying that.
So it's just superstition.
It could be. But
It could be.
for some people,
Yeah.
it could be absolutely valuable,
Yeah.
right? But
I don't think any of the things that they were trying to do, with maybe the exception of the marshmallow one, were designed to be generalizable. So, you know,
well, what you just talked about right there, of power posing affirmation stuff like that, that is completely generalizable.
no. By generalizable, I mean that it's supposed to apply to everybody.
Exactly.
So, no, it wasn't. So,
She's saying this just won't work for you.
she didn't have enough data to actually demonstrate that it was causal. So
Then what the hell is she doing the talk for?
dude, because that's how fucking academia works.
Yeah,
all right,
okay,
you get yourself, you get your fingers on a decent idea that gets popular. You ride that fucking thing all the way to tenure. So you whip it like a horse that's not going to make it. You know? So, and if you make it across the finish line, fuck it, you're good. You know? And that's all a pop psychology. There's so many things that you can find out there that are like that, where it's just like, okay, I've got something that's generated some academic interest. I can publish off it. I get a TED talk, or even worse, a TEDx talk off of it. And, it becomes popular out there, and I can get 3 or 4 publications out of it. That's enough to get me before tenure review. Okay, I'm good.
It's drawing some.
And and that's the whole thing. That's why people don't do replication studies. This old fucking guy already did that. Who are you? You're just a hater? You trying to tear down Zimbardo and his fucking prison experiment? It's like, well, actually, because it was fucking brutal. Yeah. So, and that guy's a fraud. So
every single bit of scrutinizing information I've seen of that just points more and more to the generalizations that you've made and the conclusions that you've made from this study.
They do not hold water.
Absolutely not.
That's the unfortunate thing about psychology is most of it's like that now. So there's like nothing in psychology that's not contested. So they have turned off all the wallpaper in their own house, man. So they're getting down to like sheetrock now.
No, you're right, and to that end, yes, you're right. No piece of psychology at this point should be a free layup, because that means that people were so negligent in their studies in the past that there's such a glaring hole that people, you'd say, oh, how could we not have seen this?
Oh, yeah.
Right now, the biggest thing, of course, is interpreting things through, a different lens, right? So, and trying to, I know a lot of this, too, is trying to rewrite things that we see as illnesses and that sort of thing. That's why we're, if you go into certain places, you'll see a lot of people claiming to be neurodivergent and things like that.
What is neurodivergent?
It's crap. What
do they say it is?
It's a
I've heard that, but I don't know what it is.
That's because it's internet crap. It is a way of saying that you have a different way of thinking outside of the norm, which may fall into these categories of these sorts of illnesses, autism, that sort of thing. Things that
autism is a thing, though, right?
Well, it is.
Okay, all right.
But neurodivergent is sort of like a catch-all term to say, like, you're different, but
you're special, but not.
There you go.
You're special, but not that kind of special.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Now, I have heard the term a couple of times. I mean, the people that I heard say it are people who I do not respect.
There you go.
And so it was one of those things where it was like, oh, okay, I don't know what that is, but I know that you're full of shit. So,
right. And this is just another one of those fun modern day self-diagnoses that people love to throw around.
Hey, Dr. Google.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, again, I understand that I'm dogging on a certain amount of people, and that's fine. I'm going to tell you this. Anybody that would be in the neurodivergent tag right now and defending it would currently be not listening to our shit anyway.
Probably not.
So, as a matter of fact, if you find yourself offended at this, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I don't know enough about it to tell all of them to fuck off yet, but...
Well, come and get me.
Come and get me, bro.
I'll tell you the gas station where we can meet up and we can sort this out like that. All right? You got a problem with it? No, look.
Why are you upset about this? I'm curious.
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
No, maybe. I don't know.
You just want to meet people at the gas station and exchange blows?
Anybody that's going to go to bat for neurodivergence, as told in your Twitter bio, is not going to...
They put it in the Twitter bio?
Of course.
Why?
You can't... This isn't a visual podcast, but I'm shrugging.
Right, yeah. You're doing the classic, guy with the slanty face kind of thing. Why wouldn't you? Okay.
It's what passes for an identity.
Yeah. I don't know. I like my identity. I'm just Pat. So
I don't have an identity. I'm just a collection of stuff that happened, and I
what
was
did Jeffrey. Yeah.
I was the vessel that was in closest proximity to it that while it happened.
I guess, man. I don't even see it as collecting it. It's almost like you get imbued with it, just branded on you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was witness to a lot of things.
Yeah. And most of them were involuntary. Yeah. I didn't choose to watch 9/11. It was on.
Right. You know, and if you're going to talk about identity, yes, those guys would be like, I'm a 9/11 attacker. That's who I am.
I'm a 9/11 attack. I'm a box cutter crew guy. Yeah, exactly. I guess you would would they have that on their Twitter handle? I wonder how you say box cutter in Arabic. So
I couldn't begin to tell you. It's drawn with all those.
well, I always thought the alphabet itself looked really cool.
Well, it looks really cool.
So,
It
yeah.
looks very artistic. I can't tell you what any of it
I don't know
is.
anything about it. Yeah,
It all looks Middle Earthy to me.
it does. It's got a little bit of dwarvish in it.
It does. You look on that ring.
Well, actually, no. That's like more like Nordic runes. I don't
Is it?
know. Yeah,
All right. I just
So-
say, yeah, anytime I see,
Elvish
Arabic,
is more. Yeah,
I just see like when they put the ring to the fire and
right. Yeah, it's quite cool. Ooh, multiple meaning.
it's not bad.
That wasn't
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
All right. I can deal with that.
Yeah. So neurodivergent, not so much. Any other groups you want to bag on tonight, Jeff?
I don't know, Pat. I maybe I'm grumpy. I got booted from Twitter again.
You got booted?
Yep.
It hasn't even been a week, dude.
Nope.
What'd you get booted for?
Racism.
So you're not a racist, man, but it was just say like because of the as a racist kind of thing that you were like just flagged so many times that eventually they're just like get rid of this guy.
I just got mass flagged, I think.
You got mass flagged?
I think so.
Oh.
Well, when you're committing to being a racist, I mean, it's hard not to argue. So you have an appeals process, and you can say, like in your own defense, like I'm not actually a racist. I'm doing this.
But you say as a racist.
Yes, many times it's been as a decorated racist, as
a decorated. Who was exactly pinning medals on you?
It's really not anybody's business.
Yeah,
but
okay.
it was as a decorated race, as an acclaimed racist, as there was any number in that family. But yeah, so when they say you got flagged for racism, you can't turn.
Oh,
around and
racism,
say,
like that's in their TOS. It's just you can't be a racist.
sort of, because their TOS is so nebulous. Like,
I think that's on purpose.
well,
So,
I gotta tell you, it's so selective that you can let somebody slide on this, or you can nail somebody to the wall for saying the exact same thing.
well, they write their own rules. That's how they want them.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So, and keep in mind, this was, you and I know this. This was my own pet project that I would just do in between breaks to try and irritate people, and mission accomplished. So they
Enough to get booted.
Yeah, they gave me another 7-day vacation, and
Oh, so you can go back.
I can go back.
Oh, you going to behave? Well, you're not going to behave.
I don't do this to behave. That's not my thing.
Yeah. See, this is just like why Twitter is so stupid, man.
Or because people like me are on it. Yes. you're
Well,
right.
no, it's just because so it's like this public forum out there that is basically governed by its own body,
Yes.
its own governing rules.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But it's like masking a business whose business model I still can't quite figure out.
Right.
And fundamentally, it's something that, for some ungodly reason, there's like two types of people out there. There are people who could give a shit less about Twitter. Okay? They're not on it. They don't listen to it. If you talk to me about what's on Twitter, I have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Sure.
Okay? And then there's people out there who's just like, this is American life. And it's just like this like, it's like this proxy for plugging into real people. So,
Yes, they think that somehow this is an accurate representation of when you core into a 500-year tree, and you say that this is what people really are by doing a Twitter poll.
right.
But it just so turns out that this tree was growing in a lithium swamp and there's it's like
I didn't know that came from a swamp. Yeah.
there's like fucking busted open car batteries everywhere, and you can actually like see the pipe next to the factory, and it's just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh,
Yeah,
whoosh,
yeah,
whoosh.
yeah, yeah.
And they go ahead and they drill into it, and they pull this out, and they look at these rings. They're all fucked up, right? They sit there and say like wow, America's got the America. Evidently, America is full of like socialists, and everybody is pissed off about race at all times, and all this other stuff. And you just go ask the average person on the street, it's like, what'd you do? It's like, I went to work.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's kind of the funny thing is I've never met somebody outside of like maybe the most extreme isolated incidents of folks who are just so wrapped into academia
Oh,
that
yeah.
they didn't really have a good like grip on either they were young students and they hadn't worked yet, or
The well I never crowd.
what's the well I never.
You're talking about basically people who are in the trappings of another generation, and like they're bothered, like when they find out like the students cursed in my classroom today.
No, none of those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's actually gone, man. So
There's a little bit of that left over.
I haven't seen shit of that in years. The Maud Flanderses of the world.
They were on their way out.
They're gone, man.
Leaving, yeah.
So they're gone. No, I was talking about people who are actual socialists. So
Oh, okay.
I have not actually within, I'd say, certainly not in my current university. Maybe a little bit at the previous one. There were like maybe one or two that I could identify, but it was more so like they were Bernie Sanders kind of socialists.
Yeah.
But like a bona fide socialist, I don't think I've met a bona fide socialist since I was in a union. And that's been a good 15 years.
Wow,
man.
yeah.
So it's been a long time. And so, yeah, if Twitter is like, I hear that on Dave Ramsey's show every now and then. It's socialism, blah, blah, blah. I was like, Dave, there's no socialists out there, man. The ones that are out there are too busy tearing each other to pieces on fucking Twitter. So,
Well, pretty much. I mean,
know?
what are you supposed to do? You're going to sit there and you're going to cry socialism from a $2,000 phone.
Oh, yeah,
Go
exactly.
F
Yeah,
yourself.
go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you're going
done.
to roll up on a Tesla,
Yeah.
until,
Yeah.
same thing. Or, the other one is absolutely people who are just completely put out by the system. I've met a few of those.
That
over the
I
years.
understand. Yeah, I've
That's
been that
okay,
guy before,
no.
too.
That one I understand, but you outgrow that, man. So, because
Yeah.
eventually you get back on your feet and you're kind of donezo with it,
Or you don't necessarily always outgrow that. You sometimes incorporate it into your being. So let me say this. Okay, so you and I have both been in positions where we were flat ass fucking broke.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So to say like you outgrow that, all right, you could look at that from one perspective. Or the other thing is when you do outgrow it, you don't forget it. You incorporate it into yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But you don't have to be I'm not holding signs. I'm not sitting there saying like well, those white people up there, they own all the land. I'm going to tear their stuff up, right? No, but you remember what it was like to be hungry.
Yeah, you do remember, and I think you always have an appreciation for that at that point in time.
Right.
If you ever lose that, then I think that's when you kind of go a little bit loopy, and I've seen some people do that.
But there's also a different charge that you get from it, too, where it's like, you don't worry about as much in some ways, because you're like, I've been there.
Oh, yeah.
I made it.
Yeah, and you will, too. I tell my students that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it sucks being a student. Slinging pizzas.
Yep.
Eating shit. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
Really not taking care of yourself in some respects. But also, like, the thing that always used to bother me was just the worry about, like, man, is it going to be like this forever? How do I get out of this? I don't see a way. And just, like, hoping for, like, some bone that somebody would throw you.
Yes.
And then not getting it and feeling just absolutely crushed.
Yep.
But then, like, eventually everybody gets a bite at the apple, okay?
Not always the way that you imagine.
It's never the way that you imagine. The plans that you make and the things that you actually outline as being this is how things are going to go. I've never met someone who was like, yeah, I told myself I was going to do this, this, and this, and I did all 5 of those things. You know,
There are. They wrote that crappy book about it.
right? It's just, yeah. So yeah. I guess there are some Tony Robbinses out there.
Yeah.
So, but you know,
yeah.
they're so fucking rare, and that's just not a way that you're actually going to do it. You know, but like I mean, back to the point, like, you know, if you look at Twitter, yeah, you would think there's, you know, fucking 80 million Americans out there who are basically fucking starving. But then you go to Kentucky, all right, and you realize, oh, these people aren't starving. They're just trading for things with Pepsi. So, you know, that's a little bit different, you know, than you think it is. You just say that they don't have enough money to actually, like, do this. And I get it. You know, there is some areas of the country that are, like, poverty-stricken and stuff like that, you know. But at the same point in time, it's not this swampland, you know, of just like desolation out there anymore.
No, there's not a section of the United States that you don't walk to Kentucky and you're like, this is Fallout 4, man. You know, it's not.
Right. There's rad roaches everywhere.
I know some people on Twitter like to present it like it's
Sure,
that
yeah.
way. Just like in the same way that if you go to certain parts of Chicago, you hear gunfire to a 4/4 dance beat.
Right,
But
yeah.
it's not. Yes, bad shit happens, but all you have to do is lay out the numbers and say, all right, well, this many things happen. There's this many hours in a day.
Sure.
So the presentation of this being on TV as a minutely occurrence is probably not fair.
No.
Likewise, the absolute state of, as you mentioned, rad roach survival, you know,
Right.
carcass eating, and, you know, taking rad X every day just to
Yeah.
not turn into a fucking radiation
Fighting off
vampire.
raiders. Yeah. Super mutants. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there's a little bit. I mean, there's a reason that amongst all parties, they actually recently pulled this out, and it's like 58% of all, you know, people, regardless of party, aggregating together, identify the media as the enemy, and they're right, because they
Yeah.
make their money by playing these things up to be bigger and worse caricatures of
Yeah.
themselves than they actually are.
Well, I'm actually going to cut down a little bit of slack. on this
How
one.
dare you?
I know. Hear me out.
All right.
I had to go look at the numbers not too long ago and realize exactly how few people watch that shit.
Okay.
Okay, it's tiny.
Yes.
It's like CNN's like, you know, like their afternoon numbers are like your local TV station beats it.
It's abysmal.
It's abysmal.
Yeah, it's a money losing.
And so to point to them and to say that they're actually having a great big effect upon the rest is bullshit. Okay, you know, it's just that's an ant trying to move a rock, you know, in some respects. And so, like, when I look at the media now, with maybe the exception of guys like Tucker or possibly Joe Rogan, or, you know, like even the YouTube like news that I watch, and there's a few folks on there that I found that I kind of like. They only draw like 110, 120,000 views on their news
Yeah.
things. And so, you know, like when we talk about media, all right, I don't know, man. I think that, like, if I was CNN and if I was trying to market, yeah, I would gin all that shit up to 11 just to keep the fucking lights on, you know?
Yeah,
More so
because that's the audience you have.
that's the only audience I'm going to get, too.
It's
you
the
know?
people that want confirmation bias up to 11.
Absolutely,
Yes.
and because they'll click the shit out of everything that I put up there.
Right.
That tells you about, like, oh, actually, you know what? We found this other document that does tie Donald Trump to Russia, and then, oh yeah, click.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it.
I knew it.
it
Yeah,
all along. It was the
exactly.
Russians.
Yeah, it was the Russians, you know, kind of thing. And so, you know, like, I am going to cut them a little bit of slack. I think that, like, a lot of what we consider to be like legacy media, maybe not so much like the Times and the Post and the Journal just yet, but like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, maybe. I mean,
Fox News has a place.
Fox News has a place, but their audience is fucking ancient.
Well, they're dying.
If you look at like the differences in demographics on there, one Fox is like a standard deviation. Their average is like a full standard deviation older than everybody else.
Yes, that's correct.
So
that's why I said they're dying. They're literally.
The audience is dying.
Literally dying.
Yeah, literally dying. Yeah, and so like I mean, and think about it. Like if I have right now, my access cable package, and CNN finally got kicked out of airports not too long ago.
Oh, good for them.
Who the fuck knows what's there? Now, it's probably CNBC. So let's talk about the stock market, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, fuck that. No. Well, okay, yes, they have televisions on in airports, and, it's on every time I go to Goodyear, and I'm waiting for my car to get worked on. But the fact of the matter is, I, like all the other 50,000 people going through there that day, am just playing on my phone.
Yeah. And so, like, I mean, but like the media that you get on your phone through like the Google newsstand or Yahoo or wherever you get your news, it's so disaggregated from everything else. It's not like you have like one forum that's one like, central group that's like spoon feeding you. And so like really the power of the media, I think the back of it's been broken in a lot of ways. And, like the fact that, you still have these old school journalists, quote journalists, who basically use Twitter as a ricochet chamber.
Exactly. Yes.
Most people just don't pay attention to it anymore.
Well, they get hearts and they'll generate discussion and all that stuff. But
sure.
To what end? It's
exactly
that insulated. The more so it does anything else, it just spurs discussion. But the discussion, you can predict it. You can predict it to the response.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So if you take our president's most recent gaffe about this stupid son of a bitch, right?
What did he do? I didn't catch that.
So one of the reporters was going.
He was a Fox guy, right?
Yeah, he was going to ask him about inflation, and whether or not that's an asset or something like that. It was a loaded question, right? I get it.
Inflation is an asset.
You can look it up, but it's a loaded question.
Okay.
The very nature of the question is loaded, and Joe Biden just does a grumpy old man thing. He's like, "You're a stupid son of a bitch."
Yeah, he's getting good at that.
But all right, so here's the thing: is when that story comes out and it's dumped out by Fox or CNN or MSNBC, go to the comments. What are the two types of comments?
Comments.
I'm not asking you to. What I'm asking you to do is to predict.
What are the two kinds of comments? He's a stupid son of a bitch, or how fucking dare he? Those are the two that you're going to get.
So
I never read that is something that Dan Carlin taught me like 10 years ago. It's like, don't look at the fucking comments. So, I can't do it, man. So,
look, the comments section is sort of youthful in its own right, because in Twitter that's all it is. You go out there and you
Twitter is a great big comment section.
That's it. Yeah. That's all it is. And every now and then people will say like, your comment is so great, I'm going to retweet it to all of my followers at blah 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 blah.
Is that how that works? I don't even know how it fucking works, man.
That's showing it to more eyes. It's a way of plucking something from this space and amplifying it in this space.
Okay. And
so it could reach other, audiences, right? But when it all comes down to it, all it is, it's a comment section. This is, sure. I just want you to think about this, okay? So all the angry letters that people used to write to TV networks.
Oh, that you never saw? Yeah, now you get to see them all.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm seeing way too much ankle on this TV show.
Right.
Is being amplified to a bunch of fucking idiots. Like, half the things that I do just for fun are Twitter advertises. And a lot of advertisers let you go in there and make stupid ass comments about their stuff. And jumping in there and making fun of them. Right? Why not?
Yeah, I guess.
They don't care. They're not going to go in there and say...
No, they don't care.
you know, they're not going to sit there and like when Nike advertised and I jump in there and I talk about like, you know, how many Uyghurs did you, you know, employ, Uyghurs did you employ to make this or whatever. They don't care. They're just going to look right by it. Because
I doubt anybody even sees it.
no.
So,
well,
yeah.
they have some social media goon that looks at these and stuff like that. It's the same thing where
Probably doesn't go past his desk, though. So,
well, they're going to check on. Dude, I used to have to do this kind of crap. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at somebody with a complaint or whatever. Then you take a look and see how many followers they have, and you see if they pose any kind of real risk to any kind of business, and then you go bend over backwards to accommodate them.
yeah, sure. Got to make money, man. That's how you do it.
No, I'm sorry. The correct answer to all those things is go fuck yourself. Unless it's a legitimate complaint where you say like you come out there and somebody posts and like, this is my mashed potatoes, this is your mouse, right?
Right.
Or, you know, this is your bottle of Raid that came in them. Then you got to talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Then you got to talk about it.
But if it's just like this person looked at me funny, it's like I don't give a fuck.
I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get the cheeseburger?
Yeah.
All right. Yes. Blocked.
Yeah. Well, here's a coupon for your next purchase. So
Do
I'm
that,
just gonna
that's
buy
fine.
you off.
But yeah, just like, oh, we're so sorry about your experience, blah blah blah. You know, they've talked about how that concept of corporate accommodation has been a net negative in society recently. So
Oh, I don't know. So, like I said, I was talking about like the American public being the Baron Harkonnen that nobody wants to recognize a couple of weeks ago.
yeah,
They absolutely can pull the heart plug on any fucking company they want to. So
yeah, but Americans largely don't.
most of them don't give a shit.
Well, they don't give a shit, and they sure as hell don't walk on the same foot.
No, not very often. But when they do, it's pretty fucking scary. So,
Like, you know, for all of the quote unquote hate mongering that Chick-fil-A does, they open up a new location every weekend. So
that's
it
because the
doesn't seem
vast
to be-
majority of fucking people in the country love Chick-fil-A. I mean, I think if you pulled any part of the country, even you could go to the most like liberal place that, you know, absolutely. I don't even know how you can identify Chick-fil-A necessarily as a real right-wing company. It's just run by Christians. So yeah. So you just identify Christians as being automatically right-wing.
Well, they say that the people at Chick-fil-A have donated to some organizations that
Sure.
But
so did Hobby Lobby. So they get the pee-pee slapped.
And yeah, people say that they're a right-wing organization too. But, well, this is also to say that you can derive the intent of a person's politics just solely based off of where they spend their money.
Yeah.
And that's absurd.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. No, that's crazy. And so, like, if, you know, people are out there going to march against Chick-fil-A, go for it, man. So you're walking down a path that most people aren't going to go down. And so don't bitch about being lonely down there, you know? Because quite honestly, I mean, you know, so many companies are so apolitical, especially as they mature a little bit. I mean, Facebook's not there yet, but they're probably closer than Twitter. But just take a look at like a company like Microsoft, man. So they've kind of learned their lesson on that one. So kind of, sort of, I get it, but
they're putting their toe in there now too.
Well,
so.
yeah, but out of all your tech companies, I guess they're probably the one that's the most neutral and it's like, hey, actually, what we do around here is make money. Okay,
I would argue. Well, no, I would say that they're more political than say like an Intel, AMD.
Oh yeah.
You never hear about Oracle
No.
opening their big fat mouths or anything like that. So
no, but I mean, even some of the original guys who founded some of those companies, like your Dells and stuff like that, they were actually pretty politically involved in the beginning. Now they just kind of melted into the like. Eventually, all of those organizations become corporatized. So you get out the original guys who are fucking dunzo, you know. Like even Nike was like that for years. Because remember, Nike was founded by that dude up in Oregon, you know.
you're talking about people with dreams.
People with dreams, and I'm an entrepreneur, you know, and I want to make the world better. And eventually, guess what? You get fucking old and bored. Okay, and so you decide to blast your ass off into space, or live on your private island with your brand new girlfriend or something like that, and fucking corporate dudes move in and take over your shit.
Man,
And
you
then
just,
within
yeah.
like 5 years, it starts looking like Price Waterhouse Cooper or something. So
I was gonna say, like, how
you
many
guys swap
times?
out Birkenstocks for Brooks Brothers real
Yeah.
fast.
I'm gonna say, like, how many times can you say Richard Branson in the same sentence? Because you sort of,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, and so like I don't know, and I mean then when they get to that point in time, then they become fairly harmless.
Well, harmless. I mean, this is you're talking about such a subjective thing. Because I mean, you're talking about, you know, you're talking about my biggest problem right now, because there's any level of things that can be defined as harmful, but I just don't have the energy to care about those things. And as I've said to you before, if you care about one, you're obligated to care about all of them,
I
because
suppose if you want moral consistency.
which I don't have.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think I can.
I can't do it. I gave up on it years ago. So
Well, I can get like fired up for a weekend.
I don't even have the energy for that, man.
Well, I
So,
mean, it dissipates as soon as the next Avalanche game is on. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so I think that's it. I mean, I think I just like moral outrage can come, but it'll pass.
it would take something like truly crazy for me to get like super fired up again.
All right, so if we marched 100,000 troops into the Ukraine right
That would
now,
fucking do it.
okay, there you go.
Yeah, that's definitely that would be the stupidest thing. And I've seen a lot of stupid things from our State Department over the years. That one would take the cake. So they're not going to do it though. They're absolutely not going to do it.
Twitter really wants people to do it.
Well, fuck Twitter.
I
Fucking
agree.
delete Twitter.
I caused too much trouble on there. That's
Yeah. No, there is no way anybody's going to do that, man. So I even saw it the other day. They said they're going to move like 8,500 troops. And I was like, well, let's read into this a little bit more deeply. Okay, so, okay, first of all, we're not moving anybody. We're just activating 8,500 troops.
well, that's way
Okay.
different.
That is very different. Yeah.
way different.
Yeah, we're not actually moving them into Ukraine or even those countries that are on the border there.
No.
We're just activating them in case we have to move them there. And on top of that, 8,500, okay, so like just take your like standard military deployment where it's like 10 guys, support guys for every combat guy.
Mm-hmm.
So really you're talking about 850 combat troops
Right.
and a whole bunch
right.
of fucking desk clerks. So and comm guys and stuff like that, it's really not that big a deal.
No, and activating doesn't even mean what I used to think it meant. Like when I heard like activated troops, I guess I always pictured a lot of dudes who were doing their thing, and then they said you guys have been activated, so a bunch of dudes like look left and right really fast and then flick their cigarette because they got to go
Right, yeah.
somewhere. Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're getting on the plane,
Right.
but it's just like, oh, you guys are activated.
You guys are activated. We might call you in the next 3 weeks.
Right,
So,
so-
yeah.
Nobody's taking vacation right now. No,
No, and I mean, like, yeah, so that one, I mean, if Twitter really wants, I can't imagine anybody in my circle who would actually want to go with war or go to war with Russia over the
what?
Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you might as well try and put 8,500 fucking dudes on the moon. Yes. It's about the same in terms of realism. It's just nuts. And I saw that the Germans were actually the ones, or the British were like, oh, we're gonna fly some, weapons down. The Germans were like, not over Germany, you're not. And I was like, oh, you're in NATO too, aren't you? Obviously, there's not consensus about this.
Yeah, and our government flew weapons over there too, and
Oh, well, yeah, that's because General Dynamics needs her paychecks. So,
well,
dude, we will sprinkle weapons on any country out there that asks for
it's
them. This is nothing new.
no, it wasn't my. it wasn't my impression that they came over there and had them in like baskets with like limes and
Right, yeah,
Toblerones,
exactly.
and they're
Oh,
like, these are
yeah.
for you, welcome to
Yeah,
the
they're all
neighborhood.
hidden in containers full of rotten potatoes. Yeah. No. So it's probably just the leftover shit we were going to send to Israel. So this year.
Well, okay, well, Israel would be like, no, we got enough.
Yeah, we're
Go
full.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, we're full. Yeah.
Like, everybody's got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it.
No, that would definitely be one. That would lose. Yeah, my vote next time for Joe Biden if he did something stupid like that. He's not gonna do anything stupid like that. So the guy's not as like. So I watched his press conference like last week or 2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
He's not as like dull as people think.
Yeah, but he ain't exactly sharp.
No, he ain't sharp, but he's still there. He's just not sharp, And I'm not saying like he was sharp and then got dull. He's just not sharp, So, but I don't think he's the walking corpse that I thought he was the week before that. So.
No, all right. So my interpretation of him being the living dead may have been off, but that doesn't mean that he's exactly a dude that fills me with confidence or is really steering anything in an active direction. I don't know. Look, I'm gonna. I've said this many times before. I'm gonna say it now. The thing that's going to hang his administration when the time comes is COVID. Because they've had such a nonsense reaction to it. They're losing that battle every day. And when it comes down to it, all they have to do is go to the beginning and say, well, our campaign was we were going to fix it. Is it fixed? No.
Yeah. I'm not convinced he's going to run. So.
I don't know either.
Yeah. I'm not convinced he's going to run. I think he might come in. I think, so the election is still 2 years away. At least 2.5. You still have a midterm this fall. Fuck, man, that's 11 months away. So
it is.
There's so much shit that could happen between now and Thanksgiving. It's not even funny.
Absolutely, like going to the war with the Ukraine.
I don't think that's gonna happen. So
fingers crossed.
I'm pretty sure that, like, I don't know. I was watching this piece. So there's some foreign policy bullshit that I listen to from time to time.
That's all you have to say about it.
Well, these guys know what they're talking about.
Okay.
But, they're always like, thinking in terms that aren't necessarily realistic. Okay. They think in like more so strategic, ethereal kind of like realms, power bases and stuff like that.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
But I don't know. One of the guys said that there was about 60-40 chance that the Russians actually do an incursion, so of some kind. And then he was also putting, like, he said there's about a 10% chance that you'll get a military response out of some form of NATO. So, and he said it's a very low chance because the way that NATO's set up is it has to act unilaterally, or unanimously.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 nations in particular that are like, fuck this. So Turkey being one of them. So, and so like, I don't think Joe Biden's got the, I don't think he definitely doesn't have it in him to act unilaterally. So on something like that. No matter how much like, the Joint Chiefs and General Dynamics and the Pentagon want to replace all their M1 Abrams tanks that get blown up with brand new ones. Yeah. He just won't do it, man. So, like, a lot of people are going to give him shit for this, but I think history is going to actually show him right on Afghanistan in the long run. That as bad as it looked at the time, he fucking stood up to the military. I'm waiting for that biography to come out someday where that conversation is actually recorded.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand.
Because I'm pretty sure he told him to fuck off and get out next Friday.
I wouldn't doubt that for a second.
Yeah.
I've never argued that leaving was the issue.
Sure.
I would say, and I still say, that the manner in which it was done,
it was terrible.
Was haphazard and potentially, like when you're talking about that biography, possibly even spiteful. But
it might have been.
Ultimately, it's something that, like you said there, was probably the right call.
Yeah.
We'd overstayed our welcome by a wide margin. So this is one of those things that, I look at this and say, like, people are just calling for this. Like we need to get down there. We need to stop this. Like, all right, so we just left.
Yeah, stop trying to gin up a brand new war,
Because...
Oh, man, there is nothing in the world the Chinese would like more than that. So,
that'd be great.
Oh, yeah, it'd be great for them.
That was sweet.
It'd be sweet. Oh, you're not paying attention. Okay, so this island, quote, quote, that's 90 miles away.
Holy mother. Okay, so I did catch the ADVAIs this week, and they were talking about that.
I didn't see that. I was at my mother's house.
Oh, that's a shame.
The fuck what were they talking about?
A few things. Some of the, more predictable things, but also, some of the more interesting things were where they talked about how, like a game of CK2, the Chinese... So they opened it with how globes are being manufactured in in China.
Do they have the 19 dashes or whatever?
That's what they were talking about. And that is some old fucking CK2 shit. It's like, we found this ancient map that says this is all ours.
Oh, yeah, this is totally a fabricated claim. What was the guy was that your chancellor who used to do that? Who was the guy?
I think so,
yeah.
Yeah.
You go out there and fabricate a claim on, Lord Dunbar's land.
We found this old map. And it says...
These ancient documents establish our claim to the throne. Let's fight.
Well, yeah, because the answer is, I guess it does. Oh yeah, no worries, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
So globes coming to America have this bullshit drawn all over it. But yeah, you're right. And yeah, China would love that. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of talk right now that this is firmly, conspiracy hat stuff going on, where this is like, these guys do this, and then post after this is when the invasion of Taiwan will happen, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. The guy that I was telling you about a couple weeks ago, those two old guys that I listened to.
Yeah.
They're great. But one of the guys in that, he was basically laying out what's going to happen in China. Well, I guess his predictions. These guys like to make predictions and then see if they come true.
Oh.
So kind of thing.
They put money on it?
No, they don't put money on it, but if they get one right, they get to bag on the other guy.
Oh, okay.
So, because they rarely do get them exactly right, but if, someone nails it, then, kind of like, it's a, hey, what do you got? Kind of thing.
Well, it's not like I fleeced you for $500 when I said, hey, Pat, I think COVID's a big deal.
Yeah, you probably should have, man, because I thought for sure, like, I was going off inside information on that one. It turned out to be completely wrong. so
well, we didn't put any money on it, so.
I never will either. So, but this guy was saying, and he's been right over the last couple of weeks, and so I'm looking forward to their next podcast here, because he might bag on the other guy about the rolling shutdowns that are going on in China.
Yeah.
So, and he's like, it's going to hit the Olympics, and then he says after that they're not going to be able to contain it. It's going to go bananas. All right. So, and then the whole party is going to be painted into this corner, okay, because it's committed to this zero COVID policy. All right. But, most people in China are like, oh, well, that's that town up there. I don't give a shit about that.
Or even as that was one of the things they talked about on ADV was,
oh, yeah,
it's not just that town over there.
Yeah.
It's that section of that town.
Of your town. Oh, okay.
So this is one of the problems that they had was there are actually big protests in China going on.
Are there?
Yes.
Really?
They're not televised.
Oh,
Why?
of course not. Yeah.
Because, so China is kind of in a conundrum right now. So according to them, a long time ago, when they started having pool parties and this shit, they were like, there is no COVID. We defeated it. Right?
Yeah.
So then they say like, well...
I remember that. That was last summer.
Yeah, and there were a bunch of dumbass Americans who were like, why did we do this?
Yeah.
Like, well, because it's a totalitarian state. They're fucking lying to you.
It's a mafia state, man.
Yeah.
It's run by the mob.
So what's happening is they're closing off certain sections, and, just I hate to go back to this. It's like, you'll go inside if you'll shoot you, right?
Yeah.
But so they keep telling every day, they tell the citizens, well, there's no COVID here, right?
Right.
But what they keep doing is they keep closing off more and more stuff like this, and they say, like, okay, well...
But they just shut down big chunks of WeChat, or...
Well, and they're also saying, well, okay, but it did pop up, so there is COVID. They're like, we said there is no COVID. It's like,
Well,
get
no,
inside.
yeah, get inside.
And what happens there, this is one of the things they talked about, is you mentioned, you're like, we go to the grocery store once every week or 2 weeks.
Right.
They go every day. So the food has to come to them. Food isn't coming to migrant workers. You have to be one of the...
Oh, because you got to have that card.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's huge protests of people going, like, where's our food? Right?
Yeah.
So this is popping up. Again, they're squashing it.
Right.
They have the Olympics coming right down the corner. The one that...
Isn't it like next fucking week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ADV guys, and they were talking about this, and they're absolutely right, is they were talking about things that have to change, whereupon, like, the CCP has said, foreign people will not be allowed to voice their opinions about this, right? They're, when they're talking about, like, athletes. But the IOC, it's in their charter that says, no, people are allowed to do this. So then there's the question of, like, how are you making this exception?
I thought the IOC was kind of captured by the CCP in some
That's
respects.
the problem. Is they
Okay,
said,
got it.
like, you are contradicting the fundamental nature of this. So that means either you need to be torn down, this is a worthless organization, or these guys have to capitulate. So there's this weird thing where, like, they're having this fight about this. There are big problems. I mean, they talked about, so, and this is what I actually got into a fucking fight about, on
Twitter?
for. I actually got into
You got no China fight?
I got into a fight with an actual 50 Cent Army guy.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah, it was funny.
You took down a Wu Mao?
I sure did. And well, I don't know. It's not like I was gloating. I didn't raise the flag outside. But basically,
You're going to put a stamp on your garage?
it was just, like it's the outside of my fighter
Yeah,
jet.
like you shot down a
Yeah.
road, you know?
So, yeah, he's sitting there, like talking about, like, well, this isn't a problem because there is no COVID in China. I said, like, you really think so? I was like, pull up your numbers. I was like, you're telling me that in a city of 22 million, Beijing, you had 9 deaths. That's a statistically impossible.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's where we started getting into this argument about this. And you and I both know that is impossible.
That's impossible.
Right?
I mean, like, so the ADV guys had that one a little while ago that they hinted to, and they've never actually followed up on it, was based upon, like, the number of cell phones that have gone offline in China. It's in the millions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual,
So-
that's what I said, like, the actual unbiased number of this
Right.
is, the soft estimate is 1.7 million dead.
Oh, yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah. Well, and they don't even count, like, comorbidities there. So, like, here
Right.
in the United States, we're about to hit 1 million. But we overcount in some respects.
We do.
It's not as bad as I thought it was. Okay.
No, but it is absolutely clear that comorbidities are the...
It is, but the thing is, the way that we count them, it's but if not for COVID,
Right.
those would still be things. The people would still be here, so they
Correct.
would not be counted.
Right.
And we have always done it that way. So they have always done it that way in terms of any kind of, like, disease. So way before even COVID. Okay.
I think you have to. I think you have to on grounds of how our criminal system works.
Absolutely. Yeah, you do. So yeah, because that's exactly what it is. It's a legal term, if not but for.
Right.
So yeah. So
Right.
As
As a matter of fact, it's the distinction is cause of death and manner of death.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Your
Yep,
wife
yep.
would know all about
Oh
this.
yeah.
But yeah, because we can't have the defense of, like, well, you shot him. It's like, yeah, but he was gonna die. He was dying of COVID.
Right. Yeah. He had heart disease.
Right.
So I did him a favor.
So not guilty all around. Right?
Not guilty all around. Woo. Yeah.
And the jury's I guess.
Yeah, I
mean,
guess if that's what the law says.
It's like I wasn't convinced until they actually brought out a table and showed me how many Big Macs he eats in a week.
Yeah.
You know,
so yeah. So your Lumao guy, what'd you do to him?
I just at that point, that's when I said like this is 1.7. You guys reported 9.
Right.
You weren't even gutsy enough to go to double digits.
Yeah.
That was about it.
That was
right?
about
That
it.
was he didn't have much more to say after
He
that.
helicoptered off.
Well, I was like, don't fucking act like you don't have this here. The thing that they reported on that was this was the amazing stuff. Was there was a person who came down with COVID, so they boxed them in and they said, all right, we traced this back to where they got COVID.
Was that the package from Canada?
That's yes.
I did hear. He did a video on that.
Fucking that's amazing.
Yeah.
And they said,
fuck Canada. Yeah.
well, it wasn't just fuck Canada. It was that they said, this is within the statement that's hilarious. They said, none of the handlers came down with COVID.
So you had to open the package.
And it left from Canada to the States, to Hong Kong, to China. And COVID stayed alive inside the package.
Over an entire ocean. 3 different
Correct.
customs.
Yes.
Yeah. And probably, at least a dozen people who touched. I get it. It's just complete horseshit.
They're
just mad at Canada.
Well, with the final message of, if you want to stop the spread, stop ordering stuff from overseas.
Yeah. God dang, man. I remember growing up, and reading like Dale Brown books and shit like that, or Tom Clancy books, where like the people on the international stage, particularly like the U.S. guys and the Soviets, were like so sophisticated in their diplomacy and stuff. Dude, it is like amateur hour, like every day. Yeah. If you just look at it kind of across the board, it's like none of that shit that we wanted our like the establishments to be is there, man. I mean, and like the same thing's true in China. They say, well, it came from Canada. It's like, okay, it came from Canada, going through the United States to Hong Kong to here, and brought COVID with it because COVID was gone here. So look at the chain of bullshit here.
Yeah.
I ran out of fingers, dude.
You did. Yeah. You did. Well, and the funny thing is you can't look at that. You can't look at that excuse, right? And anybody that's even taken just like middle school geometry or something would look at the proofs on that and say, well, you would start by solving this problem here, right? You guys, you have to write a 1, and then you have to say, all right, well, angle ABC is 90 degrees,
right?
But you haven't even started there. You're just kind of like. There was like, well, it's a different version of COVID than our COVID. Yeah. It's like, and the whole thing was, but we don't have COVID.
We don't have COVID.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. So it clearly didn't come from here. It had to come from Canada, the United States,
yeah.
and
And so why did you shut down an entire city because of 9 cases of fucking Omicron?
Right. And when they talked about what they're doing with testing, which is absurd. It is.
Oh, were they? Yeah. So I did see a story on this where they're like pushing people out into the streets to get tested, and so people mingle around for like 3 fucking hours, without masks on and shit. It's like, come on, dude. Did we learn nothing from this entire thing over the last 2.5 years?
Oh yeah. Well, the question did any of you graduate high school?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, man. I mean, it's too bad because, before the whole COVID thing, I used to get a regular batch of Chinese students in my school.
Sure.
I love talking to them. Man.
Absolutely.
So they were absolutely interesting people on a certain respect, but I could tell with, some of them in particular, particularly, some of them could barely speak English.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they would constantly ask, what? So... Okay, and it was like, no, you don't understand what I just said, do you?
Right.
But every now and then you run into some who are fairly sophisticated, all right? So, or at least a little bit more practiced in English and stuff. And this is going to sound so Pat ethnocentric on this one.
Woohoo!
But I actually know more about fucking Chinese history than most of them. So
I guarantee you do.
I know, man, but that's really disappointing if you think about it. So, yes, it's a specialized kind of study, all right? And I did spend 2 years doing it. Okay, but I shouldn't have that much more knowledge than someone who's graduating from high school in China.
Well, what are you gonna do? how are they going to know that when their version of what year do you think Chinese history
It starts in
for them?
1948.
Yeah.
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 So, although I don't know, like the one guy that I did meet, he actually did know about the 1010 revolution and the overthrow of the last dynasty and stuff like that. You know, but Sun Yat-sen wasn't a Democrat. He was like seen as a fucking, you know, proto-communist, and he wasn't. You know, and so it was just like one of those things. Just like, man, I don't want to say anything to you because I don't want to be rude. You know, that's really fucking rude. You know, so. You know.
Look, this is the same thing. Look, on the flip side, this is the same thing that I'm seeing with my students right now with what they're being forced to read in their classes and what the version of history they're being taught right now.
Are these your Hong Kong students?
No, I'm talking about the American students where the shade of this now is, look, I'm not going to sit there and pretend that America has a squeaky clean past. No country does.
No.
So I'm going to put this out there. But I hate the way that it's presented right now where it's like, well, so when the first settlement of you know, Roanoke was here, it was created for the strict purpose of setting up
Subjugating the
it's opening the first racist base in America. And
racist moon base one.
Exactly, yeah. So no, that's cool. Yeah, so when they set up the first racist moon base, they set down silos and sent out their harvesters and
right, scooped up all the Tiberium.
They
which the natives needed in order to live.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they went out there and they mined racism, and then they redistributed that until 1776. And this war was fought with Britain for racism.
Yeah.
And then after 1812, they did this, and this happened for everything is viewed through this lens. I'm like, no, guys, don't pretend it didn't exist.
Yeah.
But you're assigning motives that can't possibly have existed. You can sit there and say, like, all right, okay, so when you're in the Reconstruction,
sure,
and
yeah,
you want to go out there and
make a good
say,
argument for
we'll
that.
say, if you want to go out there and break out the numbers and say, when was the greatest percentage of minority representation in government?
It was like 1872.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to say afterwards,
Oh, it's probably getting close again. Nah, not like that.
well, no, it was actually significant at that point.
Well, yeah, because the entire South voted in black congressmen. Yeah.
Right. So if you want to say that those laws were built with racism in mind,
They were.
I'm gonna give you double thumbs up. But to come through and say, just like you were talking about, it's like, well, he was a proto-communist. Like, what are you talking about?
No, he wasn't. See, I don't worry about that with American history so much because American history is so broadly taught. And, like, there is always somebody out there who's going to correct you on the exact, you know, measurements of the diameter of that tank shell in American fucking history. That dude's always going to be there, you know? And so, like, you know, the whole, like, you know, teaching history through any kind of critical lens, regardless of what critical theory you want to pick. See, like in high school, it's like hands down students' least favorite topic. Well, it's probably math, but you know.
Well, okay, no, I won't say that because the thing that offsets it with math is you have a significant amount of people that dislike math, but there's also a big group of people, well, a significant group of people that get math boners. They love it.
Yeah, so people with math boners aren't going to study history, so they're not a problem. People with history boners are going to study more history when they get to college and realize that most of what they learned is bullshit. So, you know, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, you go out on the average street there and ask, like, you know, American, name me 6 presidents. They'll name you the last 2, and then maybe Lincoln and Washington, and then fail to come up with the other 2. You know, so history's not really that. I mean, this kind of hurts, but it's something that the more that I read, the more that I kind of wade into it, the more that I realize that history is about 90% of masturbatory exercise. So it really doesn't do that much to tell us about our stories, about who we are and stuff, because in this country, we don't take a collective view of anything. So, you know, except for when people fucking fly airplanes into buildings or bomb ships in
Yeah.
a harbor
Or
or
when-
blow up one in Cuba or something like that, then we all get fucking ape shit butthurt
Or
about stuff.
when everybody gets sick.
Or when everybody gets sick for about 6 months until we get tired of people telling us what to fucking do.
Yeah.
So that'll actually be a fairly like consistent story with the, I guess the cultural like, you know, milieu of America. You know, it'll be interesting to see kind of the takes on it in 5 years, depending on how like this next year and a half goes. You know?
Okay.
So, but we look back at like 9/11 and we all have a kind of the same story. Man, it was really cool that we all came together for like 9 months after that.
Yeah.
You know, and then it got fine until Swiftboat dude later on, and blah, blah, blah. And now, why are we invading Iraq? And I do remember the invasion of Iraq as being one of those things where some people were like, hey, whoa, 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 whoa. That's when that broke, you know?
Yeah, there was the seeds of doubt. But
There were the seeds of doubt, and they were kind of guys who were like, you know, well, you're always that guy who says that shit. You know, but then after a little while, like I'd say by 2005, people were like, "Oh fuck, wait a minute, you know,
what are we doing?
What are we doing?" You know? So, but the same thing is going to be true with like, you know, COVID in some respects, and so I'm not too worried about that. Now, the Chinese thing is fucking scary, okay, because that shows you what you can do with an education system that's actually unified.
yeah.
You know, because I had students from all over different places in China. All right, and they were all equally ignorant on some of these things.
Yeah.
You know, we're here in the United States. If I have a kid who grows up in a rural school in Texas and put him with a kid who grew up in, you know, an urban school in Chicago and put them with someone who grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta, they're going to have 3 different interpretations of American history. So
They will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and that's fine. The guy who's interested in the diameter of tank shells will defend the fort for everybody else. And explain to you why Thomas Jefferson was actually a good dude.
Yes, and somebody will also, you know, he owned slaves, right?
Well, yeah, I know that. So, yeah. So,
Well,
yeah, I know. How many books on him have you read?
well, it's like that's the only thing they know about.
Yeah, okay. So maybe you should go read some of those fucking books. Yeah, right? You know, so that's
something
the,
a racist would say. Yes.
yeah, okay. So,
Yeah,
you still
I-
haven't read
well,
the book.
Look, it is my opinion that as of right now, the words racist and Nazi there's a fire sale on it. So get the usage out of it while you can, because you will look like an utter idiot.
Oh,
saying this in
yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. I don't even think it'll take that long. So, like,
Nazi is the
Nazi, yeah, it's
the
so
on
overused.
fleek,
Yeah.
or it's the da bomb of
Bomb. Oh,
22.
that went away.
Yeah, it's you guys have outdone it. You guys have run it into the ground. This
Yeah.
is-
Yeah.
It will be viewed as the Macarena. It will be viewed as
Yeah. The 2022 version of twerking.
twerking, tight rolling your jeans,
Tight rolling your jeans. Wow, that's an oldie. Yeah.
snap bracelets, British Knights, and a whole bunch of other things.
Calling guys posers. You know? Yeah.
Sorry, guys. You gotta show a little bit of restraint.
Yeah, it's not going to pan out. So, yeah, the backlash on that one's out there. The trans backlash is coming. So
Yeah,
that's a topic for a different day. So, whatever.
Oh, from Penn State?
UPenn, or is it Penn State or is it University? I think it's University of
I think it's
Pennsylvania.
UPenn. Yeah,
Those are
Leah
different.
Thomas, I
Yeah.
think, is the name. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
And that whole train wreck that who is it? Is it the Daily? What's the fucking British paper that always likes to?
The Mail.
The Mail. The Mail is prying that story open with the fucking screwdriver lately.
Well, I told you this. I told you that this movement would actually have to. Men aren't going to care. This movement has to come from women,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And I've said this before. I'm going to say it now, and you can debate this all you want. Okay? No, it's fine. This is where I currently sit. All right. My views on this have changed 5 times over the last 5 years. Okay, and I've hit a certain roadblock that I haven't seen argued around this. Okay, so Patrick, you've known people that have suffered from body image problems.
Oh yeah, sure.
And the way that it's manifested itself has been in eating disorders, yes?
Not always, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying that you have known people that have had this manifest
Sure, yeah.
in that way.
Yeah.
So what happens to a person when they have an eating disorder and they look in the mirror?
Well, they don't see what you see. That's for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they have an identity problem.
I guess you could call it a problem.
Well, it's well documented, right? If you don't see an accurate representation of yourself at that point, okay.
I guess it depends on the pragmatism of it. Like, what do you do about that? Do you start cutting yourself? Then yeah, it's a problem.
Well, no, okay. So
does that make sense? So it's got to have an instrumentality behind it,
right,
before it becomes a quote problem.
Well, no.
Yeah.
I totally understand, and there's a healthy version of this too. But within that disorder, okay, that is part of the problem. Is the body image?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Now, the problem that I have that I'm not able to overcome at this point is your physician wouldn't look at the different view of yourself if you had an eating disorder and said, well, your problem is that to be that person that you imagine that you are, you should continue down this path and continue to starve yourself, because that's when you will have the image that you want. And right now, in the same comparison, they're saying that I see a different person in the mirror that I am. So you should take hormones and get surgery.
Yeah, but is there consensus in the medical community that is what you're supposed to do? See, that's the thing I can't get a straight answer on. Okay, so because I keep seeing this shit from the UK. All right, where it's like, oh my God, it's a fucking problem, and all the NHS is doing blah 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 blah. But here in the United States, okay, how common is this? How many physicians are actually directing their patients down that one as a proportion of the whole? So if I'm a pediatrician, and I'm treating someone who's 14. All right, and is expressing some of this. Do I automatically encourage them to start doing that because that's the medical consensus? I don't know the answer to that. Do you?
Yes.
What?
It's more than zero, and that's a problem.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're just taking an absolutist kind of.
I have to.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
No, I have to say that because in that same example I quoted to you, if you recommended that a person continue their eating disorder to reach their desired image, they would lose their license that minute.
Yeah, probably. So
you'd be found guilty. You'd be
guilty of what? So malpractice? So
yes, if you advise somebody to starve themselves as a person in a position of power,
okay,
you'd be doing 24 years in jail.
Yeah, I just don't really. Oh, really?
A significant portion, because you have.
I didn't know that was actually a criminal offense. I thought you just lose your license to practice if you're actually giving people bad advice.
No, if what you're saying the solution to the problem is, if a person has come to you for medical assistance, and you have advised them to continue starving themselves, okay, that isn't just bad advice, especially when it comes from a medical professional. Yeah, you can't do that.
Okay.
Okay. So I guarantee you they would get you with manslaughter at the minimum.
Yeah, right? I don't know how that works, but I'll take your word for it. So,
but they would probably pin a different form of murder
if you actually died. So
absolutely,
yeah, if you actually died.
The problem here is I haven't seen an argument that draws a distinction between there where the root cause is my identity is something that is not what I want it to be. And if anybody advises, right, that in order for you to reach that, you should follow this procedure, because the standard rule of psychology is you never feed anybody's delusion. Yeah. Right? The argument right here is that they're saying, well, it's not delusional. Okay, then how do you draw that line? The lines that we have here as far as consistency, we've followed these at this point. You cannot take somebody that is having delusions that they're being watched by aliens and say, I agree with you. You cannot do that.
Yeah, I guess if you're a licensed psychologist, you probably couldn't.
You can't. So. And I'm not saying the whole. This is the thing. This is the thing I've made clear is I have absolutely no problem with transitioning. I have no problem with this, but the way that it's being approached medically is problematic. If you want to do it, do it. But there is no version of this where you should be able to go in there and say, all right, well, this is what I'm seeing with my identity. Well, okay, so all recorded science says no. Okay? This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible.
What, to actually identify as like the opposite gender from what you were born as?
And to consider that as having been a part of like your genetics.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh shit, man. I'm like so agnostic about some of this stuff that it's just like I mean I see that there's issues here. They don't provoke in me the moral outrage they do in you, I guess.
Well, it's not a moral outrage. The biggest thing for me is I have zero problems with anybody doing this of their own volition. I have big problems with the medical community jumping in to try and say we're going to legitimize this. And again,
I don't see the medical community as a unilateral group, though, that is actually like marching in the same direction. It's like, so
Yeah,
that would be something that would be different if you actually did have like a nationalized healthcare system where you have a guidance out there where there's a committee or a panel like the NHS that says, okay, this is these are your flow charts. All right.
Goes with Canada,
and if it said here, this is your flow chart, okay, you know, and that was on the flow chart, then yeah, I'd probably be on the same boat with you. I just don't know, like in the United States, and I've been bagging on our medical system for years, but I'm starting to see some like silver linings to it. You know, and so like I've thought about myself in particular. Okay, so what if my daughter comes to me and says she wants to be a boy? All right. Okay, step one, talk to the wife. Okay, on this one, what's going on here? I don't really understand. You know, am I out of the loop, or do I spend too much time in the basement? Whatever,
right.
Yeah, kind of thing.
Why is this the first I've heard of it?
Yeah, exactly. Why is this the first time I've heard of this? And so, okay, we get past that and figure all that stuff out. We go to a doctor. Doctor says, blah, blah, blah. All right, we're going to start putting on our hormone blockers or something like that. Mm-hmm. My instantaneous like reaction to that is like, I'm going to go find another doctor. Okay, so because maybe this is the right decision and maybe this is what she actually wants to do and stuff like that. And okay, so maybe it's just a phase, but you know, I can also see the problem with like, you know, your ability to change outrunning the phase in some respects on those things. And so this is why this is such a really tricky issue, because I'm no biologist. I know even less about medicine than that. Okay. When it comes to any kind of like natural processes within your body. All right. I'm familiar with what goes into it and what comes out to it. And I've been occasionally.
You've done that many times.
I've done that many times.
3 times a day.
3 times a day, at least for my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, but anything beyond that,
I got that down.
No fucking clue how it works.
Yeah.
All right. And so I would go out there and I would seek. Now, if I had a state assigned doctor, all right,
yes,
who was like, this is what you must do.
Right.
You know, kind of okay, now all right, now it might be fucking pitchfork time, but I'm not there yet with our system. So, and that's why, like, when I see shit coming out of the UK in particular, where people are, you know, about it, it's like, oh, whoa, okay, so that's different context. I get it. All right, maybe you guys need to hash this out first, you know, in some respects, because I just don't see that in the United States. There's like this just fucking wave of this going on, and the entire medical community is fucking behind it. So
no. Again, you touched on one of the benefits and one of the hazards of the medical system is, even if you take something that's not even as controversial as like you talked about, like gender reassignment or something like that, right. You can be in a situation where one doctor can say,
eggs, are eggs good for you or not?
Oh shit! I was just talking about like just a straight up thing where I don't think we can operate on this. And then you have another person that says,
I'll give it a shot.
It's risky.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a new treatment. Mm-hmm. It's out of your network, though.
Yeah.
And then you go ahead and have that fight. But you're talking about in something where people know for sure that this clump of cells has to come out of you to prevent death.
Right. There's consensus on that.
Exactly. Yeah. And even in then, you have that dispute.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're talking about something like this, right? So the problem,
I don't think they're at that point, simply because, you know, it's still like we were talking about, just to bring it all the way back to the beginning, psychology is in fucking disarray. And what you're talking about is fundamentally a psychological, like, it's a fight that needs to occur between psychologists, psychiatrists, and doctors. So
okay.
And so, like, I mean, you're really talking about a 3-way fist fight there. So, because there's a shitload of psychologists out there who couldn't go to medical school because they're not that good. Okay, and they know it.
All right.
You have a bunch of doctors psychiatrists out there who are psychiatrists because they didn't want to be surgeons.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of surgeons out there who don't know shit about psychology. So this is a real kind of like, I don't know who's got who by the tail, man. So, yeah.
You know what? And it's funny, yeah, because you're right. Because in other systems, the avenue of specialization is the exact opposite of the way that we do it.
Yeah, no, we do it here. Specialization is higher up the food chain. So, yeah, whereas in the UK, you start out as a specialist and only after years, years of practice, you become a general practitioner.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Universal healthcare would be really cool in some respects, but... And I was never afraid of death panels. That's called your insurance company. So, they're more ruthless than the government would be.
They are, yeah. It's like, no, your busted heart stays right the fuck where it is.
Yeah, but still, at the same point in time, I think, there are benefits to it. I don't know, man. Let me think about the trans thing a little bit more.
No, well, no, you touched upon the exact point of this here is... It is so easy for each and every one of us to point at this and say, this is 100% right, this is 100% wrong.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Cuba has got, the perfect example for, like, healthcare. It's like, I don't believe that. I can't possibly believe that.
No, I can't
right?
believe that either.
But this is the way that we're polarizing these things. And even I got a little bit heated about this because I'm like, well, all right. I don't know everything about medicine, but what I can tell you is in this country, okay, we don't even let people smoke cigarettes before they're 21 because of the permanent damage it can do developmentally.
Yeah.
And if I were to turn to you and say, all right, we'll start taking hormone blockers at 6, okay, I can tell you that if there is some kind of decision made afterwards where somebody says, you know what, fuck it, I was going through a phase, but I was 100% down on this.
Yeah.
The effects are permanent.
Yeah. No, I did see something a while ago that, like, I think it was in Australia. There was a podcast with there's only like maybe a handful of doctors there that will do the surgery. And actually put people on hormone blockers. And there was an interview with one of them. And she was basically talking about, like, exactly how serious this is. And she was like, look, we will never sterilize a child. So the only exception, and there's consensus on this, is for radiation treatment. So if the kid has cancer and needs chemotherapy, it'll sterilize the child. And even at that point in time, it takes, like, quite a bit of signatures to get off on it. And so, and she said, like, and I guess, I don't know, this is just an example of one, so an anecdote. But she was like, look, it is an extensive process, in order to actually get to the point where you're even eligible for, consideration of having hormone blockers.
Yeah.
You have to go through, like, batteries of tests and all kinds of shit. Your parents have to sign off on fucking everything, And then, like, see some of the stuff in the UK, and it's like, oh, no, you can just go down, I don't know if that's fucking true, man, or if that's just, like, the Daily Mail.
No, there's look,
yeah.
Well, I can tell you that in Canada, you're subject to potential jail terms for misgendering people just in speech. That's not a joke. No, there was a person that was just sentenced to 4 months.
4 months of jail. What did he do? Just
misgendered somebody.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, are they making an example out of him because he was, like, particularly vociferous about it?
Should that matter?
I don't know. I'm just asking. So
the way they said it was not his first offense.
Okay.
But it was not. It was just something like, I will not acknowledge this person as this.
Yeah. I don't know, man. So
now that's Canada's problem.
I get it.
Obviously, that'll never happen here, right? There's
Lord, no.
I'm gonna say just like COVID. All right, we're gonna end on this. Okay, because we've been talking for a while.
Yeah, it's buck 30.
Okay, so as we've talked about COVID, one of the things, whether you be left or right, is with everything that's been going on here. The question is how people are reconciling their libertarianism. So even if you're on the left and you've been seeing this, there's a part of you that sees like the libertarian
I
spore
guess, yeah.
like growing on your belly button.
Yeah.
And the question is, how do you reconcile this?
Your libertarian spore. God dang, man. You know, you're opening up a rabbit hole here with me because, man, I'll end on this point. Libertarianism is an 18th century philosophy that is about as relevant as anything else from the 18th century. So, the Constitution notwithstanding, we can't even fucking agree on what it says. All right, and so to actually like think about my libertarian spore, I hope it's in a place on my body where I can't see it, because otherwise I would be like thinking about it all the time. Like if you ever have a growth, you know, it's like fuck, that might be cancer.
Well, okay. See, this is the thing about the spore.
I don't know. Is it get bigger?
If you're aware of how these fungi work, right? If you're familiar with those ants that
Oh yeah,
are influenced by the spore,
yeah,
where they start acting in the interest of the spore,
yeah.
they're not really ants anymore. And so there's a part of it where you can have it on you, right? And you can hit it with tough acting tenactin.
Just don't go in the shower, man, with the rest of the guys.
Well, that's the thing. But COVID has forced people to deal with the fact that there is a spore on all of us. How do you reconcile it? Some people have become consumed by the spore.
Some people have
no longer the identity that they were born with. They are now a libertarian fungus and have assumed that identity.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
I guess, man. I don't know, man. I don't really see libertarianism as making this, at least not like classic, like Milton Friedman libertarianism.
Oh.
No, like modern libertarianism is much more akin to populism, which makes it really, really fucking shitty. So,
Misapplied at least.
that's the kind of fungus that will kill you. So, you know, or at least turn you into a zombie.
Right.
So, yeah. That's a discussion for another day, though.
Yeah, all right. So this has been Coffee Before.
This has been a long episode of Coffee Before.
Well, we didn't meet.
That's true. You got a bonus. Like there's like 30 minutes of bonus content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Fucking stick around to the end of the episode, and we'll tell you where to mail checks. So I'm Jeffrey.
I'm Pat. Okay, I was just giving everybody a chance to leave. I'm gonna hit the button.